My next guest is someone, Ahad, it's so good to see you here at this. I didn't expect to see you here. Ahad was the, first of all, he is you are the leader of renewables at Audubon, right? That's your paid job. That's what you get paid to do,
Yes.
right? But you also were the meeting lead for the Grid Edge conference that we did in San Diego, and we did an interview there. But tell me how you think the Grid Edge conference went.
I think it went well based on what
it went great. It went great.
I was actually going to ask you to tell me how it went, because it's going to be a little bit too selfish if I say it went great.
No, it
but
was.
I thought, based on what I heard at the event, what I saw at the event, and also the survey results, I think it all implied the same thing, that for a first-year event, we did a great job.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot to do to improve it, to keep the momentum for the next event, which is in 2025. We're now working on finding the right location for it, the right timing of it. But we know that we have to move fast. We need to do as much as lessons learned, make sure we continue on the first-year success with the next year event.
I think that from the people that I talked to, because we were doing interviews there, it was a surprise. Like I wish I had known what I know now. That was kind of the feel that I got, that we would have, from an exhibitor standpoint, we would have made a larger representation. And what I also heard was the program itself, the way the panels were handled, the way the super sessions were handled, the way that the plan, I mean, it was all nothing but positive, and that's going to build on. So it's an IEEE PES Grid Edge event, which is alternative years from the PES T&D. 2024 next event, 2025 next event, right?
Yeah.
Not in San Diego, or yes?
We just don't know yet.
Okay.
We are working through a convention center to figure out dates and see, if we could lock in some time in advance. And hopefully within a month or two, we'll know that.
Orlando is close, so and a great convention center. Anyway, let's talk about hydrogen, because we're at the World Hydrogen North America event. And I wrote an article recently, and I'm surprised they allowed me to come here and do this for interviews, because the article was hydrogen, hype or hope? Because there's a lot of money floating around right now, and money can create problems. It can help move things forward, but it also can be spent poorly in the wrong places and give a really bad impression. Talk about why you're here as it relates to Audubon, why you're here, and how do you see hydrogen? What are the things that are going to work from your opinion? And I know this is your opinion, not necessarily Audubon's.
Yeah, and just to give a context to it, Audubon is an engineering company, very well versed around hydrogen, ammonia, green space, or other colors. So the company has that heritage and history of working on this field before it becomes such a hot topic, obviously with different colors back then. But to your point, and I should give you a compliment on selecting the name of that article. It's very smart, hope versus hype. And I completely agree with you. I cannot probably say a definitive answer for a solution, for a location, for a offtake, to say this is definitely good all places all the time. I think it really depends on which technology applications, which off-taker demand side, and also which location you are talking about, whether it is broader context of worldwide or whether within U.S., different areas of the country. Obviously, when it comes to green hydrogen, electricity plays a huge role, and the price of electricity going to be so much more important than even the capital cost.
Right.
There is a huge promise that the capital cost is going to come down, and we know that with the different technology demand. The scale goes up with the PEM solutions, with the more creative alkaline solutions, and the price is going to come down. And obviously all these monies that you mentioned through IRA on the production tax credit, which we are all waiting to see the details about it, and also the Hydrogen Hub, which last month was the submission deadline for full applications, and hopefully sometime late summer or fall we're going to hear from DOE on which projects are blessed or not. One rule of thumb for me when I'm chasing clients for the company is whether or not the developer or the company who is interested in the hydrogen business and defining a project is like, do they have a firm demand off-taker? Do they have their bottom line almost working without any of the IRA funds or generally federal or local funds? If a project is absolutely reliant on a 50% cost share of capex on the hydrogen hub to make it work, to me that probably is not going to work out, because at the end of the day, again, things are not as definitive, but just maybe rule of thumb, around 30% of end cost of hydrogen going to be the capex side. The more piece is the OPEX, the operational of electricity and other OEMs. So I would say really we need to look into which application, which location, and make sure we connect the dots correctly. Because if not, to your point, the hype of it, once the money comes in and then going to get it spent, we're going to left with a new industry which doesn't work.
Yeah. There's a lot of VC money that comes in that now looks at, if we can leverage whatever the technology is or the new project is or whatever it is, if we can leverage that to leverage government funds, whether that's Europe or here, that to me is the problem. What you said is very true. If it is a commercially feasible project, people will put capital into it to scale, because that's what we need to do to get to scale. If it's commercially feasible, not, hey, if I just get more capex, whether that's from the IRA funds or from venture capital. And I think I see the VC world a little more cautious about this than in the past. I see them asking the questions well, how will this play out? How soon can you get to commercialization? Maybe not profitability, but to a commercialization where you can get a revenue stream for it. No, that's excellent. That's a great approach, because I think that's the hope. And the hype is, hey, I've got a great idea. Give me money. That's the hype. And there is a lot of that in this industry right now, in this segment right now. Last question I've got for you is, when you think about yourself personally, professionally, because you've seen wind, you've seen how every year we had to go through the funding process, and the developers didn't know what was going to happen, what was tax credit, and then finally, hopefully now we've got a 10-year window to look at what we can do with wind. Is that what the government needs to do, is to take a longer-term approach to hydrogen than, spend all this money on these projects now to suddenly make it work? Should they be looking at a 10-year runway, a 5-year runway? What are the expectations as a taxpayer of the billions of dollars that we're pouring into it? Should we see things really become commercialized in 5 years, 10 years, or hope?
I actually think government in this particular case did a great job.
Okay, good. Okay. I don't know which president did it, but we'll give them all credit, right?
And the reason I'm saying it is because they did almost both of them, as you pointed out. You look into the Hydrogen Hub, the Infrastructure Act, that's giving the capex, which is pretty much that short-term money throwing it into a project to make it work and upfront. And then you have IRA for 10 years, which is that production tax credit, which is going to longer term support the project till it gets through the overall bottom line of the project work. So I think in that sense they are kind of doing both. And then you obviously have the loan office as well. Jigar Shah and his team also looking into incentivizing, giving loans, big checks to the projects that are financially viable, but needs some initial momentum to push them to the finish line. So I think in all of those sense, the approach is good. I guess, again, it goes back to whether or not a project could kind of almost work without any of those. Those projects are the most successful ones. Not to say that if a project is being propose through a hub and get the funding and goes with it, there is nothing wrong with it. I mean, the project can still go forward and work, but those projects who could take those incentives out and still work, to me, those are going to be the one driving this industry forward, the green hydrogen industry forward. And what I say more and more is like finding a balance between what is now more common of everyone thinking about exporting to Europe. That is good. That's viable now, and it may stay viable next couple of years to decade, but there always has to be a balance. If there is a production facility here in US, I am pretty sure there should be a demand here as well. So it's not like, I see more and more these smaller developer companies who wanted to develop and flip the way that the solar industry has been, and I don't think the two of them are the same. And the reason is, with the solar industry, you have electric grid that wherever you connect, the electrons flow. Yes, it's not as easy. I'm a transmission planner by background. I know it's not as easy.
I'm a mechanical engineer, so that's like, okay, I'm so glad that works, right?
But generally speaking, it's much easier to flow electrons of the solar compared to trucks or pipes that doesn't exist as much. So more and more I see the situation of the 2008 with the financial companies where everyone passing the risk. We don't want to go into that mode that developers develop, flip, and like the realistic, like taking away those shiny pieces of a project and the project still works.
Yeah.
We want to more and more see this, and that's why I say if the project without the incentive works, those are the projects that are going to push forward way faster, way more, brings more confidence into this industry. I guess what we want to see is more and more those kind of projects to set the tone and make sure this whole green hydrogen economy is going to become successful in a faster pace with all the supports, obviously.
Right. One of the things that strikes me, so I'm not going to ask your opinion, right now, when the government pours money in or capitalists pour money in, they tend to create silos. Hey, I've got my solution, I do this. I really think there's a great demand in the whole hydrogen space, the green hydrogen space, for collaboration between projects, between successful companies. Audubon, a successful company, now needs to collaborate with other people, and not so much, well, we've got our own solution. Talk a little bit about the principle of collaboration as you hope it would happen within the hydrogen economy, because I know you're a collaborator. You're one of the best I know, by the way, because the grid edge would not have worked if you had not. And sometimes I thought, does he know these people don't work for him? Do you know that at 5 o'clock on a Wednesday night, I don't work for you, but you expect me to be? Anyway, you did a great job with it. So you obviously understand collaboration. Talk about that.
I think